Hi everyone, welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the film from 2018, Head Count. Without any further, let's get started. The movie opens with a man named Evan who had just sent his friends on vacation. Based on his look, we may infer that he was not happy because he had to see his brother and was unable to go on vacation with his friends. Actually, he had spent a few years living apart from his brother Peyton in a different city.
Just in case.
Evan did not enjoy his trip because his brother preferred to live in the great outdoors, while Peyton rarely uses his cell phone and never utilizes it for communication. When they arrived at the rocks, they expected to become a little more enthusiastic seeing others besides him and his brother.
Yeah, it's something.
Furthermore, it appeared that one of the group's female members had a crush on Evan, whom she had just taken a picture of. Then the blonde woman asked whether Evan and his brother would like stay with them. Peyton was initially hesitant to participate, but in contrast to Evan, he enjoys interacting with people. Later, it comes out that Evan is also attracted with a woman in maroon, named Zoe. After that, they started introducing themselves, meeting a woman named Tori in black, a woman named Haley in pink, a blonde named Camille, and a woman wearing glasses named Vanessa. The males included Sam, who was wearing a black cap, Max, who was wearing a black shirt, Brian, who was wearing a blue jacket, and Nico, who was dressed in various colors. After Evan and Zoe's lengthy talk, the group of friends decided to head back to the villa, which was distant from that location. Evan and Peyton are then invited to visit and stay at Zoe and Camille's villa. Although Evan truly desired to be a part of the gang, the group had to part ways with Evan and Peyton, who had other plans, because of his sympathy for his brother. But soon after, Peyton saw that Evan was in a difficult situation because of the circumstances. Evan obviously didn't want to lose this chance and chose someone else over his brother. To cut a long tale short, the pals had arrived to a villa. Everything went smoothly at first and nothing seemed strange. Up until that point, they exchanged reading scary stories that had to be obtained from a website. The difficulty begins here, as Evan reads a story titled hisg, which sounds nothing like a story at all. Following that, everyone stopped participating in the activity right away and returned to the villa for a party. While Zoe and Evan were alone in the warm water, Zoe revealed that, with the exception of herself, all of her 8 friends were in relationships. Thus, Zoe considered herself fortunate that Evan had shown up, seeming eager to go with her. As time goes on, the scene opens with Evan looking like he just woke up. Evan left the room right away, delighted with the partying from the previous night. Shortly after he greeted the blonde woman sitting in the living room, Evan was wearing shoes at the time, and he noticed a footprint leading to a warehouse. He spotted a strange, unidentified image inside the warehouse that appeared to be 5 persons holding hands. Later, Zoe reached him, saying she wanted to hang out with him today. Meanwhile, Camille had just woken up and was rushing since her friends were getting ready to go out. A little while later, Camille called out to everyone to hurry up, especially Brian, who was still occupied with his cooking supplies. However, it turned out that Camille was waiting for Brian, who was already in the car. She was obviously very confused by this odd encounter, and Evan also instructed them to wait for the blonde woman he had seen in the living room. Then they all told him that Camille was the only remaining blonde woman. Following a long drive, they all arrived at Rocky Hill, where they started to part ways, with Evan and Zoe walking with Nico, Haley, and Sam. In this moment, Tori is seen climbing to catch up with him, but suddenly, Zoe jumps off a cliff, sending her friends into a panic. Fortunately, Zoe merely sustained a leg injury and avoided death. However, odd things continued to happen when Tori, who had just been seen standing on the cliffs above, unexpectedly appeared next to Zoe. Likewise, Zoe was completely unaware that she was about to fall. She acknowledged that until her legs were hurt after she hit the ground, she had no memory of the happening.
My car's full.
Later that evening, they gathered at the villa still curious about the earlier incident and the strange occurrences that kept happening that night. On her way to get a drink, Camille observed Nico in the kitchen. When she came back to the living room, though, she was taken aback to see Nico talking with her friends there. Even though they've experienced a lot of strange events lately, they're still positive that the alcohol's effects are to blame. In contrary to Evan, though, Max was so terrified that he intended to lock every door. Unfortunately, the appearance of an unknown individual startled them once more. The stranger, however, turned out to be Peyton, who was waiting out for his brother's return. Even so, they were all skeptical of Peyton right once since, despite never having been there, he knew where the villa was. However, their claims were untrue as his brother had used a GPS to track Evan's location.
The Teen Safe app.
Though Evan's brother had extended a request for him to return home at this very moment, he still wanted to be there and spend time with Zoe. Peyton had to leave the villa without his brother, for whom he had been concerned. Soon after Evan's brother left, they got together to play in guessing games. However, just as Sam was about to respond, the villa's electricity cut off, and Sam oddly appeared from the kitchen. They all instantly got shivers at this point, because it was evident that the person who had been playing with them before was not the real Sam.
I've been here for like an hour.
In order to reassure everyone, Evan, Max, and Sam went around each room to turn on the lights that unexpectedly went out. After that, Evan awoke the next day, leaving Zoe alone in the room. This time, he purposefully took Brian's laptop in order to research some details regarding the tale he had already read. Then, Evan realized that the night before, he had been reading a spell that could call out a creature known as a hisg, not a horror story. This source states that hisg is thought to be a creature with the ability to transform into anyone. When a group involves 5 people or doubles in size, the energy gets more stronger. Evan intended to inform his friends that he didn't want to stay after reading everything, but he was taken aback by Zoe's being there, who urged Evan to stay with her and added that Zoe's leg got better when Camille invited her to ride in Max's car.
Yeah.
Evan then quickly prepared himself and went on a trip with Camille and Nico. When they came to the spot, they all got out of the car right away, but Evan overheard Zoe's statement that she would be joining Max in his car. He was also informed that Zoe was becoming worse and needed to be cared for in the villa by Brian and the others.
What?
Evan was thinking nonstop after hearing that, and before a while he realized there were 5 people in the villa at that moment. He made the decision to go back to the villa with Camille because he was in a panic at the moment. Sadly, both of them could only access the villa at night due to the considerable distance they had to travel from the resort. Furthermore, the villa's conditions were abnormal. They had already descended into chaos. Evan and Camille didn't find their pals there. Instead, all they discovered was evidence of a suicide. Soon after, Camille noticed Zoe gathered around the campfire. This is not the real Zoe, of course, as we think their 5 pals had already taken their own lives before they got there. Max, Nico, and Vanessa had just arrived at the villa at the same time. Although they were the exact 5 people there, they had no idea that their arrival would cause a new disaster. At that very moment, the demonic figure posing as Zoe started counting down with her fingers. A single misplaced finger may lead to an attempted suicide by one of the residents. Thankfully, the attempt was unsuccessful, and upon realizing this, they all ran directly into the villa. Then, without caution, the villa's lights went out once more, and Evan hurried to look out the window. The devil obviously wanted to demonstrate that he could still bend his fingers, which caused Camille, Vanessa, Max, and Nico to immediately take their own lives. As you can see, they began acting strangely and taking their own different lives. To make matters worse, Evan is already stuck in an odd dimension and is unable to escape. He was sent back to the same location by the weird dimension. He finally gave up because, at that precise moment, all he was trying to find was Peyton's presence. Even though he knew it would be in vain, Evan had no choice but to leave his brother a voicemail because he rarely uses a cell phone, hoping that Peyton would hear it and realize that Evan was no longer with them. After not seeing Evan for a while, Peyton was concerned about his health as he was returning to the villa a few days later. The villa's conditions had returned to normal when he arrived, so he had no cause for concern. Unfortunately, the demon appeared and stole Evan's identity just as he was about to listen to a voicemail from his brother. The movie ends when Peyton extends an invitation to the fake Evan to meet his friends. Thanks for watching. And remember to turn on your notifications to watch more movie recaps like this one.